You ever see something so out of line it makes you question if folks even remember what respect looks like anymore? That was me, on a freezing Thursday in Topeka, Kansas, sitting in the back corner of Rusty's Diner, watching as the whole place seemed to hold its breath. And it all started with a single slap that echoed much louder than you'd expect in a rundown diner at lunchtime. Red Thompson. Yeah, folks call him Red because of that wild head of hair he used to have. He's 78 now, walks with a limp from an old war injury, and always wears his faded purple heart cap, though most people don't even notice. That day, Red was just looking for somewhere to rest his tired knees and grab a bowl of chili like he did every Thursday since his wife passed. He shuffled up to the counter, asking, real gentle, if he could sit. That's all it took for the trouble to start brewing. Some guy in a black leather vest with Free Riders Motorcycle Club stitched across the back. Big guy, arms like tree trunks, clearly trying to make himself feel even bigger, turns around and snarls, "No line cutting, old man." Then, before anyone could process what was happening, he slapped Red, hard enough that the coffee cup in Red's hand crashed to the floor and the entire diner froze. It wasn't just a slap. It was the kind of disrespect that makes your skin crawl. Red just stood there, his cheeks flushed red, his cap knocked askew, and for a second, you could almost see him slip into a different time, a time of gunfire and muddy boots in a cold European forest, when he was young and the world was at war. That silence, right after the slap, stretched on. A couple of customers looked like they wanted to jump in, but weren't sure if things were about to get a whole lot uglier. Sally, the waitress who's worked at Rusty's since anyone could remember, rushed over with her hands over her mouth, whispering apologies like they might patch up the damage. But the biker just sneered, flicking his cigarette but at Red's feet, muttering something about rules are rules and not caring if Red stormed Normandy. That's when someone near the window quietly started recording the whole mess on his phone, like he knew this was about to become everyone's business. But Red didn't lash out or even back away. He just stared at the medals on his coat, like he was drawing strength from memories nobody else in the diner could ever understand. You know, that quiet kind of courage, the kind that comes from having seen the worst life has to offer and still coming back for more. And just when it looked like things might take an even darker turn, the biker lifted his hand again, threatening another slap. The front door banged open so hard it rattled the napkin dispensers. In strode a man in full army dress uniform, boots heavy on the tile, shoulders straight as a flagpole. The nameplate read Thompson. His face, hard and focused, told you right away this was someone used to taking command. He was Lieutenant Colonel Jason Thompson, Red's only son, and he didn't even hesitate before stepping between the biker and his father. "Step away from my father," Jason said, his voice low but the kind that brooks no argument. The biker, for all his size, shrank back a little, suddenly looking a lot less sure of himself. Jason spelled it out, plain and clear. What the biker had done wasn't just some barroom squabble. It was simple assault under Kansas law, and because Red was over 65, the charges just got a whole lot more serious. Not just that, but assaulting a veteran could land you in real federal trouble, and Jason laid out every statute and code without raising his voice. The guy couldn't even stammer a response. "I didn't know he was military," he mumbled, but Jason cut him off. "You didn't have to know. You just had to respect him." It was then you realized Jason wasn't just talking to the biker. He was talking to everyone in the diner, and maybe, in a way, to everyone watching that video online. "This man earned the right to cut every damn line in this country," he said, dropping his dog tags on the counter with a heavy clink that seemed to mark the moment. You could tell, for the first time, the biker wished he could disappear into the vinyl of that old booth. And when Jason told him not to move or he'd detain him himself, you believed him. The tension was thick enough to choke on. Just as sirens started wailing in the distance, the biker sagged into his seat, and for a split second, the diner was absolutely silent, like nobody dared breathe. The cops came barreling in, took one look at the scene, and put the biker in cuffs without a second thought. The moment those cuffs clicked shut, you could feel the entire place exhale. Jason knelt next to Red, gently fixing his cap, his own voice trembling now. "Dad, I got you." Red, eyes misty, just whispered, "I'm proud of you, son." That's the kind of moment you don't forget. Doesn't matter if you were in the fight or just watching from the sidelines. And then, as the police led the biker out, someone in the back started clapping, soft at first, then growing until the whole place was on its feet, cheering for a man who had survived bullets and bombs and lived long enough to see his son stand up for him in a way words can't quite capture. Red bowed his head, but the tears on his cheeks said more than any speech ever could. You know, sometimes justice doesn't come from a courtroom or a badge. It comes from a son standing up for his father, from strangers who remember how to respect the people who paved the way for all of us. But here's the thing. What if Jason hadn't walked in? Would anyone else have stood up, or would we all just let it slide, figuring someone braver or stronger would handle it? So now I'm asking you, if you'd been there, what would you have done? Do you think respect for veterans, for our elders, is something we're losing as a country, or was this just one rotten apple in the barrel? Let me know where you stand. And if you've got a story of your own, maybe a time you saw someone step up when it counted, drop it in the comments below. Because sometimes the stories we share are the only way to remind each other that decency's still out there, waiting for someone to speak up. If you think the story ended the moment those handcuffs clicked shut, you haven't spent much time in small-town America, especially when the internet gets a hold of something that raw, that real. I'll be honest, I thought life might just slide back to normal after that afternoon at Rusty's. But the truth is, nothing was ever quite the same. Not for Red, not for his son Jason, not for any of us who were in that diner, or even those who watched it unfold on their phones later that night. The video went everywhere. By sundown, it was on Facebook feeds, shared by veteran groups and news outlets all over the country. Some folks were outraged, demanding justice for Red and for every veteran ever treated with less than the respect they'd earned. Others, predictably, tried to twist the story, arguing about what really happened, blaming it on a rowdy biker, or, unbelievably, on Red himself for causing a scene. It's funny how people behind a screen get so brave. You know what I mean. Red spent the next morning surrounded by a mountain of get-well cards, handwritten notes from strangers, even bouquets left on his porch by neighbors he'd barely spoken to before. Some kids from the high school made a banner and taped it to his fence. "Thank you, Red." But with all the attention came a kind of pressure that nobody really talks about. Red, who'd survived the mud and blood of Europe, who'd made it through decades of quiet living, now found himself the symbol of something so much bigger than just an old man and a bowl of chili. He'd become, for better or worse, a lightning rod in the never-ending debate about respect, about what's right, about what America should be. Jason, meanwhile, was pulled in 1,000 directions. The local news wanted interviews. The army wanted a statement. People at church wanted him to give a speech about honor and service. Even the mayor stopped by with a camera crew in tow, wanting a photo op with the town hero and his son. Jason handled it with the same discipline that earned him those medals, but I could see it weighing on him. Every time someone asked him what it felt like to be a hero, he'd just shrug, saying, "I did what anyone would do." But I saw the way his hands shook sometimes when he thought nobody was looking. The way he'd linger by Red's door at night, just to make sure his dad was sleeping soundly. The real surprise came about a week later. Rusty's Diner, once just a faded stop on Highway 75, became the epicenter for a wave of goodwill. Veterans started dropping by from other states. Local businesses chipped in for a brand new coffee machine, and Sally, never one to be in the spotlight, found herself nominated for a Good Samaritan Award by the Chamber of Commerce. And yet, for every kind gesture, there were those who muttered that it was all just for show, that folks would forget once the next big story came around. Maybe they're right. Or maybe, just maybe, it was a spark the town needed. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. One evening, a woman none of us recognized stepped into the diner, holding a weathered photograph of a young soldier. Turns out she was the daughter of Corporal Willis, The friend Red pulled from that burning Sherman tank all those years ago. She'd seen the video online, recognized Red instantly, and drove all the way from Missouri just to say thank you in person. They sat together in that same booth, swapping stories about a world at war, filling in the blanks left by time and memory. There wasn't a dry eye in the house when she left. Still, not everything could be healed by applause or online sympathy. The biker, whose real name was Rick, sat in county lockup for a week, but it was what came after that mattered. In a quiet deal, the judge ordered him to attend community service, working at the local VA hospital, talking with veterans, hearing their stories, and, hopefully, learning the kind of respect that can't be forced by law. Nobody expected Rick to change overnight, but sometimes the smallest cracks let in the most light. As for Red, he never wanted to be a hero. He just wanted a little kindness in his twilight years. But now, he couldn't even go to the grocery store without being stopped for a handshake or a photo. It wore him out, truth be told. One night, sitting on his porch under the Kansas stars, he said to Jason, "Son, I'd trade every headline in the world for just one more quiet meal with your mother." Jason just nodded, wrapping an arm around his father. Knowing some wounds never really heal, they just get quieter over time. And that's how things sit, weeks after that fateful slap. A town a little kinder, a family closer, a country forced to look in the mirror and ask what kind of respect we really show our elders, our veterans, and even each other. But here's my question to you. After all this, does a viral video really change hearts? Or does it just make us feel like we've done our part by hitting share? Have you ever seen someone's life flipped upside down by one act, good or bad? Tell me your thoughts, your stories, because maybe, just maybe, the conversation itself is what keeps the fire of decency burning. And if you believe in standing up, whether for family, for community, or for the strangers who paved the way, let your voice be heard. Drop a comment, share your truth, and let's see if we can turn a single slap into something that lasts a whole lot longer than a headline.